Welcome to the I Hate Critics Movie Review Podcast. I'm professional film critic Sean Patrick. With me is Jeff.
Hey, everybody.
Hey, Jeff, where did I get your art?
JeffLassiter.com is my website, and I will be at the Quad City Toy Show on December 14th and 15th at the Bend Expo Center in East Moline, Illinois.
Very cool. And, of course, they can find you online.
Yep. Like I said, JeffLassiter.com. Jeff Lassiter Pop Cult is my Instagram. That's where I post new stuff that if people like it, maybe I'll make stickers or prints or something out of it.
Very cool. Let's talk about some things that are happening, like awards season. So getting ready for the Critics' Choice Awards and the Critics' Choice nominations. We've got actually voting starting soon, but we've got to get a few more movies in. There's still, there aren't that many big movies left. I think Maria with Angelina Jolie is still out there. A movie called The Brutalist with Adrian Brody is still getting some buzz. And Nosferatu, Robert Eggers, is still out there, but many critics will get a chance to see that one this weekend. But it is curious, though, Jeff, to look out at this year and not see what anyone would consider to be a total front runner.
Well, nothing what I liked would be even remotely nominated. So
right. Well, yeah, the stuff that you and I love is probably not going to get nominated. The Academy is so very, very old still to this day that things like The Substance or Maxine just probably not going to get looked at enough.
Yeah, I mean, Substance and Maxine are the two best movies of the year so far, and they will get nothing. Not even they because I love them, and I think they should. They won't even get acting noms.
I'm not quite that cynical. I think Demi Moore does get a nomination because I think she's old enough that people will remember her name.
I hope so.
I like to mock the Academy's age as much as possible because that's how Green Book became a Best Picture winner. Because they're so fucking old.
That's for all the people that wish there were still more sundown towns than not. There still are, and they're not far from where I live. So
this movie reminds me of Driving Miss Daisy.
Boo.
I believe we don't seem to have one of those this year yet, so that's nice. Maybe there's one still out there. I don't know, but I'm
Nosferatu is about a completely racist vampire.
he's Archie Bunker, but as Nosferatu.
Every other word out of his mouth is the N word or the F slur.
Oh man, automatic Best Picture winner. Really, there is no front runner though. That is what's shocking. Like I guess because it was so successful over the weekend, Wicked is going to get nominated. I don't see Wicked winning.
I think it'll probably part 2 will win because they'll take it as a collective.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it would take Best Picture or anything this year, but I mean, it would be kind of interesting to watch them give it to part 1 and 2 years in a row, but I don't think that would happen.
No, I just don't see that kind of momentum for it. I think I see momentum for the performances and the production, maybe even the direction, but I just don't see any Best Picture momentum. Where I think people might be surprised is something like Dune Part 2, which has so much money behind it, so much Max behind it. David Zaslav may be a shitty person, but he does like winning things. So I think there's a shot that we're going to start seeing a campaign for Dune Part 2 ramp up because there is no front runner, and that was a very successful, very well liked movie.
Yeah, I can't think of anything that's going to win that I think should win. With the exception of Wicked, I think it's a really excellent production, but I think they'll wait until part 2.
I do think Mikey Madison might be a shoo-in for Best Actress. I think there's just so much strong buzz about that there's a good chance that will happen. She's also got a great story that can be told with relative ease throughout the awards season. Being an actress that not many people know, working with a director like Sean Baker that is growing in popularity and clout. I think that could be a story that develops into a favorite that people are going to get behind.
Yeah, that's a possibility.
One thing though that really fascinated me though is I was going through all of my list of things that I've enjoyed this year. And this could just be that I don't have the similar taste to the Academy or even to my fellow Critics' Choice members. Best Actor. This is I narrowed this down last night to my favorite acting performances of the year, and I was surprised. I kept thinking I'm going to have to take David Dastmalchian off the list at some point, and then I didn't. He's there because I need 5. And he's on the list. Not to knock the performance. I think it's a great performance, a deserving performance. But I was thinking, there's got to be something else, right? And
well, I think Denzel Washington is going to get one, at least supporting actor for Gladiator too, because they love him no matter what he does, even if he's in something that's not great.
And Paul Mescal is coming off a nomination, so that's kind of maybe a shoe in there as well. But the one that I think if I'm going to pick my favorite actor performance of this year, best actor, lead actor in a role, it's Justice Smith, and I Saw the TV Glow. I think that's my favorite lead actor performance.
It's definitely one of the best ones that has been out there this year.
It's strange to look at this and go, there's really not that much. I mean, Kieran Culkin in Real Pain. It depends. The couple there's a couple on the border. Hugh Grant in Heretic. Is that the lead? Is he supporting the 2 female leads? Like,
I think they're co-leads. I think they're all co-leads.
And then the one that we're like in the chat for the Critics' Choice that we're completely divided on is the movie September 5th, which is about the Olympics terror attack in 1972. The cast of that film is spectacular with Peter Sarsgaard and Ben Chaplin and John Magaro. And for me, John Magaro is delivering a lead performance. He plays the director for ABC Sports that day, who was in charge of their entire broadcast. And I think he's clearly I think he has the most screen time for sure and the most presence throughout the film. But it appears that the producers want to push Peter Sarsgaard, who plays Rune Arledge in the movie. Rune Arledge was the overall producer of the Olympics in 72. And that's really a performance that's far more in the background than Magaro's performance. Ben Chaplin, I think, is clearly a supporting performance that I would definitely support for a supporting actor nomination. But I think John Magaro is a lead, and I think he belongs there. But I think both critics and I think the Academy as well may be divided as to where to put him, and thus he ends up out of luck.
Yeah, I have not seen that, so I can't even. I just found out about that movie in front of Wicked, so.
It's not been a great year for people to promote anything. So yeah, it makes sense. In the but yeah, that's like, so John Magaro, I would put him in Best Actor, but I don't know if that's going to happen or not. If that's going to end up in Best Supporting, and then I've got to come up with another Best Actor nominee, which is not as easy as it would seem. But Best Actress, of course, I've Demi Moore. I've been on the Demi Moore train all along. I would love it if Mia Goth got nominated. It's not going to happen. Maxine is not going to get that kind of support. Just, we mentioned Mikey Madison. Zendaya in Challengers, I think, is one that's going to happen. And I think the one that has really surprised me in terms of how well it's stuck around is June Squibb in Thelma.
Yeah, she was great in that movie.
She was, and surprisingly, the folks behind Thelma have actually put on a bit of a campaign that isn't just about, hey, she might die tomorrow.
Might we all? Fingers crossed.
Well, she is 93 years old, so I get it. They've not made it about that. I appreciate that.
Yeah, everybody you've mentioned, I think that, the movies that I really loved, only kind of Demi Moore, even Margaret Qualley, but I think she would get supporting.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
If they put them together, it's going to kill them both. I mean, if they put them both
yeah,
in lead, you know.
yeah. So
The one I would love
I
to
don't
see,
know.
like if I was going to do like a real underground like Academy Award campaign, I'm looking at Best Supporting Actor, and I would love to see Ed Harris sneak in there for Love Lies Bleeding. That performance
Yeah,
is so creepy and so memorable that it just, even that stupid haircut, he just belongs in this category. I think Dennis Quaid should win for the substance, even though Dennis Quaid's a terrible human being. That is the best supporting actor performance of the year for my money. But you know what? Who else would be great and is not probably not going to happen? Kevin Bacon and Maxine.
yeah,
That would be a great one.
yeah. I could see if that movie got any attention, I could see him, um, Giancarlo Esposito. You know, he had such a small part, but it was so him. I could see either one of those happening.
Another one that's facing a bit of a challenge, which is a bit of a way of putting this, is challengers, because is Josh O'Connor the lead? Is Mike Feist the lead? Which way do you go with those two? Which one goes supporting? Which one goes lead? I think Josh O'Connor is going lead, and Mike Feist is going to supporting, but it's definitely a tough one to determine. And if they both ended up in lead, again, they just cannibalize each other.
Yeah, yeah. I liked that movie. I didn't love that movie, so for me, either way,
Mm-hmm.
you know. Um, I I could see, like a small indie movie getting some stuff like oh god, Problemista.
Hmm.
I know you didn't get to see that, but Julio Torres was in that. Tilda Swinton was really good in it. Um, I think the Independent Spirit Awards might go for them. But Tilda Swinton, she's always so interesting, even if she's doing something that's kind of not really great. But I thought she was really good in this, much better than she was in like 3,000 Years of Solitude,
Mhm.
which was a decent movie, but kind of a mess. But yeah, this movie was really, really well done. So I could see it. I
Uh,
could see something.
Again, Tilda Swinton competing with herself. She's got the new Pedro Almodovar movie, The Room Next Door, with her and Julianne Moore, trying to determine which of them is going to go lead and which one of them is going to go supporting in that one. It's an incredible movie, of course, because it's Almodovar. It's about Tilda Swinton as a reporter who has cancer and is dying, and she turns to a friend she hasn't spoken to in 20 years, and they rekindle their friendship, and she ends up asking Julianne Moore to be there when she's going to die. And Julianne Moore is a person whose job reflects very interestingly on this scenario, because she writes narrative fiction. She writes not narrative, nonfiction, but with a narrative, I guess you might call it. And it's kind of fascinating that she's kind of having this firsthand experience that she could very easily turn into one of her books. Thus, fictionalized reality. It's Almodovar playing with that line between what's real and what's not in a brilliant way, and of course, Tilda Swinton is amazing in it.
Something else that another movie that I thought was amazing that could get something, whether it's a screenplay or whatever, is Strange Darling.
Mm,
That was such a good movie and so inventive
yeah.
with the way they framed it. Um, or some of the acting nominations probably will come from Kinds of Kindness.
Hmm. I mean, you've got the reputation of the director for sure, but
Yeah.
you've also got a series of performances in vignettes, as opposed to one specific performance that you can put forward and say, this is the this is the character. There's not a character who plays throughout. There are actors who play throughout. So I guess that one's kind of a tough sell in many ways.
Well, if you look at Emma Stone, they love Emma Stone, and she plays three very disparate characters. Um, I mean, they all do in the movie, but they love Emma Stone and Willem Dafoe. Um, Hung Shao, they love her. That's like everybody in this movie they love.
Mhm.
So I could see that, and especially with how big Poor Things was, with a lot of the same actors in it, I could see something like that happening.
Maybe I've not been impressed by their level of campaigning. I don't think they've made themselves as aware. I think they're relying solely on the awareness of Poor Things to get it to where it is, which I don't know if that'll necessarily be enough.
Yeah, I don't know. Um, I think. Do you remember the movie Tuesday?
Yeah, with they're and they are putting that one forward with
Are they?
Julie Louis-Dreyfus. That is being shown to many critics. I'm not sure if many are getting a chance to see it, are actually taking the
Yeah,
time to see it, but it's out there, and it's certainly one that could be considered.
yeah, I could see her getting something for that. You know, somebody from Saturday Night. That's a pretty high profile, especially right now.
Yeah, there again, you're dealing with that ensemble problem. I guess Gabriella Bell is the lead, but at the same
Yeah,
time, everybody's kind of got their own perspective on it because it is such an ensemble. But I do think that Jason Reitman deserves some kind of consideration for best direction because that movie is so chaotic, but he brings it all together so perfectly well.
yeah. I mean, if Hot Frosty doesn't get something for acting, I don't know what will.
Jeff, tell us about Hot Frosty.
I don't know. I just heard what it was about. It's about a snowman who comes to life and fucks Lacey Chabert. So
Well, that sounds like the movie of the year. Why have we been talking about that for awards?
I could see something like A Real Pain getting a screenplay, or even direction, because they love Jesse Eisenberg and they love an indie story like that.
I definitely think Kieran Culkin is at the forefront when it comes to the best actor conversation. If there is going to be a front runner, it'd be either him or maybe Paul Mescal for Gladiator 2. Though we'll get to Gladiator 2 a little later on and discuss my issues with that. But you know what? One thing that I do know, Jeff, is that there will be a debate over there won't be a debate over who goes first, because Cynthia Erivo is going to be the best actress nominee, and Ariana Grande will be the best supporting actress nominee for Wicked. Wicked Part 1 is a musical. We all learned that as we watched it. We didn't know that ahead of time, of course.
Yeah.
It tells the story of characters well known from L. Frank Baum's novels, and of course the reimaginings over the years, and of course the Wizard of Oz. The Wicked Witch of the West, Elphaba, played by Cynthia Erivo, arriving at Shiz University, and she's green, which gets a lot of people's attention, especially that of Glinda, played by Ariana Grande, who is the big girl on campus. She's the most popular girl there, and these two immediately just don't like each other. They don't have the same vibe, and then they get put together in the same room and have to be roommates, and they sing about how they don't like each other, and then of course they do eventually become best friends as the story progresses. This is a really good movie. It's incredibly well made. John M. Chu really continues to show himself to be a very solid technician. Wouldn't necessarily call him an auteur or an artist, but as a director, he does know how to put pieces together well. He does know how to make a cohesive piece that flows well. And I like this movie enough. I don't love it. I wanted to love it, but there was something about, for me, the staging at the end of Defying Gravity didn't come together for me. Like, it felt too choppy for something as big and as important as that moment. Defying Gravity gets built up in your mind so much if you're aware of the lore and you're aware of the Broadway show. It was the one thing that I was fully aware of going into Wicked was Defying Gravity, and I've seen that performed multiple times in just in videos, and been incredibly moved by that song without even knowing the context. But I found it to be just the way it's cut together here with during this chase scene at the end of this movie really just it kind of blunted the impact for me until the very end when Cynthia Erivo does hit that big note that is the big note that everybody on Broadway wants to hit. And really that's when her performance kind of came to remind me of what Jennifer Hudson did in Dreamgirls with I'm Not Going. It's just one of those huge moments that if you nail it, you nail it, and she nails it. She's fantastic. And I mean, Cynthia Erivo's great throughout, but there's something surfacey about this movie also that just like a slickness to it that makes it feel as much of a product as it is a movie to me. And that also kind of holds me back. So I just didn't quite have the emotional connection that I wanted with Wicked. I do like this movie. I do recommend it. I do think it's very, very good, but I think you liked it a lot more than I did.
Oh, I really did. I thought, I mean, it what you said about Defying Gravity, I kind of think the opposite because they're running around and she's trying to Glinda is trying to convince Elphaba to not run away, to stop and maybe work with the wizard, even though, he's doing something nefarious. She's saying the way to change the system is from inside. And, we've seen how many times that's failed in the real world. And I think that when they're running back and forth like they do, that is part of her trying to convince her. And I think that's what this is, that moment is Cynthia Erivo's. The whole movie is really hers, but that's the movie where it seemed like they were trying to balance the two a little bit because they do both perform in the number, but it's Cynthia Erivo's moment. And I think they have to kind of balance that a little bit. So I think that I liked the choreography and, running around the bell tower and everything, or the clock tower. So I have not actually seen the show live. This is the first time I've seen it as a cohesive piece, and I fell in love with it. I haven't been able to get the song Popular out of my head since I've seen it.
Yeah.
It doesn't help that Target's playing part of the soundtrack for like an hour at a time every day. So yeah, I think that the staging and the singing and how everything builds on what has come before, all the Easter eggs that I've been reading about because I didn't see it on stage, that I'm just now getting, it all really works for me. The only thing that I had any sort of issue was that they cast a couple actors instead of singers, Michelle Yeoh and Jeff Goldblum.
Mm-hmm.
They're great in the movie. Don't get me wrong. I just wanted to see, there's a couple moments where I kind of wanted to see a little bit Powerhouse, and I just got House. So that was the only thing that I noticed. I haven't watched it again. I do want to see it for pleasure since there's really nothing coming out this week.
Yeah, there's no movies this week.
Or next. Or next. I looked at next week and I'm like, the only thing that's like happening is Black Christmas. It's coming back for its 50th anniversary.
Oh, we've got a bizarre couple of shows coming up.
Yeah. But I think that there's something really special about how this movie it is the zeitgeist. It hasn't entered the zeitgeist. It just is the zeitgeist at this point. And it made me actually really like Ariana Grande. Something I never thought I would say. I'm not a huge fan of her singing pop because she's a little too, she doesn't really enunciate when she sings pop. So I was surprised and like how do they say it? My flabbers were gasted. I just thought she was amazing. I liked the cameos that we got.
Mm-hmm.
I just thought that everybody was so perfectly cast for what they were there for. Ethan Slater as Bach. And I have read the book before, and I am actually it's free on Audible right now, so I'm listening to it again because
Hmm.
it's a very dense, hard read. And I know that it's very different from the show, but knowing what happens to some of these characters, it's interesting to see how they drop little Easter eggs in. Um, I this is honestly, it's probably this might actually hit my top 10 this year just because of the experience of it. Um, I was very, very tired. I work at 4 in the morning, and I watched this at 11 o'clock in the morning after work without a break. And I was just exhausted. But when she starts popular, when Ariana Grande starts popular, I perked up and I was not remotely tired or not on the edge of my seat watching it after that.
I think
So,
I think Popular for me is the best part of the movie. I think it's the best song overall for me, and best performance. And I think when we get to the Academy Awards and Ariana Grande, I think that little dance she does at the end is going to be her clip. That's going to be her Oscar clip. It's so good.
yeah. And the fact that, that's not, they just kind of added that. She wanted to do that. And, her singing over that live while she's dancing around was just amazing. The fact that all this was sung live too, I, that's definitely adds to it for me.
I think second for me would be Ozdust. I liked the I
Mhm.
liked that moment in the club where they finally do become friends, where they reach out to each other and begin to understand each other. That for me was the other like shining moment for me.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that just the staging of the musical numbers for me was it was to me it's the better than Chicago, and I think that's one of the best movie musicals ever made.
Hmm.
Um, so this just really kind of it's right up there with that for me, and I've seen that movie probably 20 times. So I just really I can't stop thinking about it and thinking how I want to see it again, and telling all my friends that how good it was. So it might actually make the top 10.
What do you think of the of people of people reframing this with the wizard as Donald Trump and
Oh God.
that sort of cultural reframing of this story?
Well, I mean, I know that you can't get away from that in this climate now. I didn't think of that once when I was watching the movie.
Huh.
There are so many hot takes to everybody. Everybody has a different kind of cast, and some people will do that. And I know people who have seen it literally 6 times already, who have said every time they go into it, they see something different and a different kind of analogy to the way things are or were. Um, and I feel like everybody's take is valid because there are some people that say, oh, it was an allegory for the Jews and an allegory for the gays, an allegory for racism, all that, which are all valid and all work, especially when somebody somebody was talking at work and they said, well, Cynthia Erivo, she's a black woman, so does her when she wants like to be not green, what does that mean? And I said,
Uh-huh.
that means she's going to be black. They actually called that out in one of the numbers. I think it's the Wizard and I when the light changes and her skin is dark. And I think everybody's default is white, so they were thinking that she would turn white. But they actually point that out in the movie with the staging and the lighting.
Uh-huh.
But no, that's the default is not always Adina Menzel.
But
Um,
does it ring kind of a little bit hollow if you can make this fit any metaphor you want? I mean, you've got like the wizard is Donald Trump because he's this fake power. He's this fake person who creates this fake power that intimidates people. You've got him secretly taking away the powers of a minority group and doing harm specifically to this particular minority group, and people are having to come together to resist his tyrannical reign. I mean, when you can take something that was created in the early 2000s and then so easily reframe it to something it has absolutely nothing to do with. Obviously, this movie wasn't made about that. Does that ring a little bit hollow?
No, not to me. To me, it just says that everybody can they can see themselves in the story. And I think that's what, really good art does, is makes you identify with it. And that's been going on since, the book was out, and since the Broadway musical was out. So I don't think it rings hollow at all. I think it just
back when the wizard was
universality of it.
Back when the wizard was George W. Bush.
Yeah. But I think, people see somebody like Donald Trump and everything about him is fake.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where they're ascribing that role to him, when it could literally just be any leader, because they're all fake. And I can see people, kind of saying that, but it doesn't, surface wise, I can see, where people would think it was about him, but this was definitely not made with him in mind.
No, definitely not.
Because the wizard, even in the book, the original L. Frank Baum books, he was always a fake, always a phony, and that was 100 years ago.
Very true.
Oh.
So yes, I have my reservations, but we both recommend Wicked Part 1, and we're both looking forward to Wicked Part 2, which I do believe the film may take on another dimension for me once we get the full picture as well.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about Gladiator 2, starring Paul Mescal and Denzel Washington, in a continuation of the story that began with Ridley Scott's Gladiator back in 2000, the story of Maximus with Russell Crowe, is continued here with his son. I was a little confused. When did he and Connie Nielsen hook up? I don't remember that. Was that a part of Gladiator, Jeff? You watched it more recently than I have.
No, it was not. He says in Gladiator, because I finally watched that on the same day I watched this, and he said, when she said, "Oh, that's my son," he goes, "Oh, how old?" She said, 12, and he goes, "Oh yeah, I have a son about the same age," meaning the other son who was murdered.
Yeah.
So
that's not his son. So why did they frame it as him to be his son?
Well, because according to Gladiator 2, it is. It doesn't mean, apparently the story that I got from Gladiator was that they had hooked up previously. And I don't know if he cheated on his wife or what. I don't care.
Yeah.
God, everybody loves Gladiator, and I'm just over here going, okay.
Yeah, I'm the same. Right. So this story, again, picking up with a character who was part of the first Gladiator movie. He's the son of Connie Nielsen's character. He's supposed to be the carry-on from Peter O'Toole's character as the new leader of Rome. He was disappeared for a couple decades after the fall of Joaquin Phoenix's character, and now he returns to Rome as a conquered person, taken in as a slave and turned into a gladiator, where he'll engage in a series of gladiatorial battles at the behest of Denzel Washington, who is just a guy kind of pulling strings behind the scenes, who wants to essentially take power in Rome away from the current emperors, a pair of, I guess they're supposed to be twins, even though they look nothing alike. They're called the twins in the movie. Again, the inconsistencies continuing to bow their heads, but these two just dorks who just have how they've remained in power as long as they have, who knows. They're both they employ a general played by Pedro Pascal to just go out and continuously conquer. Meanwhile, they're just completely oblivious to the fact that everyone in Rome hates them and is preparing to come for them and take them out. Which you'd think they might try to be aware of that, but nevertheless, Leaders of the past, I mean, typically they're unaware of when they're in grave danger. So I guess it does ring true historically. I just don't give a fuck, Jeff. I don't care about Gladiator. I don't care about Gladiator 2. I don't care about this time period. The only thing I ever think about when I think about this time period is just how bad everybody smells. Everybody must smell like just garbage all the time. And I don't, the fight scenes, they're great. They're fine. They're good. They're very well staged. Ridley Scott is a terrific director. Congratulations on putting a series of scenes together in a particular order. But the story and these characters mean absolutely nothing to me.
Yep, Sam. The only person in the entire 2 movies that I cared about was Connie Nielsen.
Yeah, and she does seem to be doing something a little bit more than everybody else in the movie. That's for sure.
She is actually, she's showing up. I mean, I just, I watched the first one. I watched 3/4 of the first one, and I was fucking bored. I was like, this is not for me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry. I know people love this movie, and that's fine. Please love this movie. Watch it a million times. I don't care. But at the first 15 minutes of it, I'm like, oh, this is okay. I see. The fight scenes are great. Everybody, is doing their thing. And the scene between Richard Harris and Russell Crowe, where he's talking about how much he cares about him and all that. I was like, okay. And then Joaquin Phoenix comes in and murders the movie. I found myself constantly distracted while I was watching it at home. And I can see where Ridley Scott was directed this very well. I think he, for what it is and for the fight scenes and everything, it was interesting. But after a while, it just kind of, to me, repeated itself.
What I struggle with constantly is, what is the overarching point? What are we supposed to take away? What are we supposed to learn? The futility of fighting? That's basically the underlying truth of every war movie. So do you have anything else that you can show me, Mr. Scott, that makes this movie mean something? Russell Crowe, he's an attractive dude. He's a big buff dude. He's cool, but and charismatic, but
yeah.
I get that he's driven by his grief over the loss of his wife and son, and that's compelling, but I need a little bit something more here. I need a little bit more depth. It's just, he's sad and now he's going to kill the people who tried to kill him. Okay.
Yeah. As a revenge movie, it's not great. As a Gladiator movie, it's pretty good. But I just don't know. It's not like, I'm not a big sword and sandals person, I guess.
Me either.
And I guess I should be, because they're all scantily clad, but when they're wearing underwear, what's the point?
Let's not even dig into those historical inaccuracies, whether it's underwear or perfect teeth or where are these people finding all these toothbrushes? I don't understand.
Right?
The thing is that when there's a movie in the world like Caligula, and I'm talking about the remastered version, the good version, which is a movie that kind of goes into the full on debauchery and the nastiness and the really gritty, gross details of that time frame. It has a personality and a point to it. It kind of reveals something like this as kind of a poser, honestly, because you've got these two twin leaders who are supposed to be this debaucherous pair who are just, running Rome directly into the ground. But the movie has no courage in showing just how debauched they truly are. They don't they barely do anything. They barely have any existence. You can't hardly even aside. One of them has a monkey. I guess that's how you tell them apart. One of them has a monkey and syphilis, and the other one is kind of a little bit more cognizant than the other one. And I guess that's the difference between the two of them. I honestly couldn't tell you the names of those two actors. They made no impression.
Well, the one is Thelma's grandson from Thelma, the one with the monkey. That's the only reason I knew who he was, because I looked up the cast list.
Well, I like him, but I like him in Thelma, not this.
Yeah. Just.
But like, where's the courage to actually show like why we need to defeat them so badly? Like, I don't think that exists. Also, like, as interesting as Denzel Washington can be as an actor, what's he doing other than manipulating two of the dumbest people, two of the most easily manipulated human beings on the planet? I mean, some mastermind. He's beating a kid who's got syphilis and makes a monkey his top assistant.
No.
It's not like his plan required a great deal of him.
I kept watching it and going, okay, so the big reveal is they're going to be, he's going to be his son, and then, then what?
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, it's basically the same arc, isn't it? I mean, he's grieving the loss of his wife, who was a warrior alongside of him, whatever village he was in Africa. She was they were both like warriors there who fall to the Roman Empire, the Roman general, Pedro Pascal, in a performance that again is just, I mean, everybody's just so absent of anything other than, hey, that's Pedro Pascal and that's Paul Mescal. Like,
yeah,
what are their overall character traits? I mean, how does Pedro Pascal take orders from these two fucking morons? I mean, other than what? I mean, what's driving this? How do these two idiots come to power to begin with? Why does anybody listen to them? Why have they not been overthrown before when it's clearly very easy to defeat them? Denzel Washington defeats them very easily.
And Denzel Washington is the only one besides Connie Nielsen who's doing anything in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
He's at least interesting when he's on screen, but I honestly couldn't tell you after I watched it, just disappeared from my head.
Yeah.
I had to refresh my memory a little bit today, and I couldn't tell you what his end goal was except to rule, and that wasn't never going to happen. So
it's just,
I don't know,
it's an empty experience.
Yeah, I didn't. I don't care. And then they're talking about a Gladiator 3.
Oh,
did you hear the original pitch for Gladiator 2? One of them was, I think there was a script written where Russell Crowe was going to be, the second one was going to be him in purgatory, and he was forced to be reborn every generation as a different kind of gladiator, and it would end up with him in the Pentagon.
That's pretty wild.
So
I don't think Russell Crowe is physically up for that anymore.
No. This was going to be 25 years ago.
Okay. I'd heard a pitch where it's like he ends up in hell and has to fight his way out. I'd heard.
I heard that one too. Yeah,
I would have liked that. That would have been very interesting. That would have been very interesting. More interesting than just rehashing what you did the first time, which is basically what they end up doing. Is just it's a rehash of the first movie.
Yeah,
but this time we've got monkeys, I guess, or what are they? Baboons? What are these fucking creatures that they have to fight the first time out? And how does
kind of monkey? I don't know.
And how does anyone survive that? I mean, you've made your evil baboons just overpowered because if you get bit by them, it's just rabies and death at that time. There's no treatment for that. There's no coming back from that.
Yeah, and I think like Paul Mescal trying to like, them showing what kind of person he is when he rips part of the arm off and spits it back at him. I'm just like, gross.
Yeah.
Now you have rabies.
Yeah.
So you're gonna die anyway. So you might as well just let it all go.
Yeah. No, he's totally dead after he does that. There's no surviving that. But there's no surviving most of the things that happen to the people in this movie.
I mean, the sepsis rate alone.
And the thing is,
scurvy and sepsis and
exactly but there's no attempt to make this like supernatural. Like there's no intention to make this magical in any way. There's no magic in this universe. We're supposed to treat this as if it's a form of reality. And how do you treat this with any kind of gravity when you've got this nonsense going on?
Yeah,
like apparently there's a gladiator arena that is water based and you can like fight with boats. Like what? It's just it just repeats the same motif over and over again. Like, oh, you've got another gladiator battle and this time it's tigers or some shit. Yeah, fight a rhinoceros this time. I don't know.
Oh, so stupid.
It's just not. I don't understand. I hope. I'm glad if you're somebody who enjoys this stuff. Good for you, man. Do you have fun? Maybe you have this turn your brain off and just enjoy the visuals thing that you can do. I was like hear levels of misery watching Gladiator 2. At one point I took a phone call and I might have been gone for 15 minutes because honestly. That's how just uninvested I was in watching another fight scene happen in this movie.
Yeah, I mean, what do we always say? Like damning with faint praise is saying that it was competently directed.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I can say about it.
On a technical level, yeah, it's absolutely terrific. From every technical angle, it's a well put together machine. But that's pretty much all it is. It's just a shell. It is a mindless, thoughtless shell. This movie, it's very pretty to look at, but it's got nothing going on inside of it. And I said the same thing about the original. It was an incredibly unpopular opinion back in 2000, and I don't care. I hated it. I did not care about the original Gladiator. I appreciate what Russell Crowe is doing. I appreciate that he was definitely like a movie star with a great deal of movie star gravitas and a strong presence. But again, it rang empty and hollow, especially, I mean, coming so soon after something like Braveheart, which is basically the same movie. Like it just felt like I'm just watching Braveheart again, I guess, which I don't care about Braveheart either.
I'm not going to say I hated it. It wasn't great. I didn't love it. And they basically remade it. And I don't know why if you're going to do Gladiator 2, why bother doing it at all if you're not going to do something interesting with it? They didn't do anything interesting with it. They just retold the same story basically. Yeah, he gets to live.
You got to find a better angle. You've got to find something to make it a little bit different. And just, I mean, yes, you've cast Denzel Washington, a black man, in this role, and maybe you could find something, in that would make this a little bit different. But they don't separate him in any way from the other characters. He's just another Roman who just happens to be, a little bit more cunning than a guy who thinks a monkey is his assistant and he has syphilis.
No. Syphilis is no joke. We had a great uncle who died of syphilis in an institution.
Oh, wow.
I bet you didn't know that.
I didn't care to know that, but that's fine. I'm just saying that guy's probably not winning the game of chess or checkers even.
No.
He's probably not. It's probably not going to be hard to outmaneuver him.
Yeah.
How these people hadn't been killed before is just one of those plot holes that I can't get around, because there's just nothing about them that screams leadership. And everyone hates them. Why? But then again, we're looking at a political structure currently in our country where everybody hates these people and somehow they're in charge. So I get it. I get it to a point. We've got a syphilitic president. I get that. But so maybe there is some truth to this movie in terms of politics, but no, I just the Pedro Pascal character doesn't exist, does he? I mean, beyond his like really cool uniform.
I don't
like
he's not the bad guy, which I thought he was the bad guy going into it.
Mm-hmm.
He's not the bad guy, but once you find out he's not the bad guy, he's dead.
Yeah.
So what's the point?
And why wasn't he this guy's father? Wouldn't that have made more sense?
I mean, but this movie is not about making sense. It's about making money.
It is an efficient machine that prints money. There is no doubt about that. Although it didn't do nearly as well as Wicked. Wicked did twice as much money, which I'm glad to see, because Wicked is a far better movie than this.
Yeah.
But man, I don't care about Gladiator 1. I don't care about Gladiator 2. They're both great to look at. And Ridley Scott is a tremendous director. Like he is just exceptionally skilled. But these two movies are just, they're vacant. They're empty. They don't have anything underlying them. And I can appreciate a solid machine. It's like a really great car. But I'm not really a car person. I'm more of a people person. I want characters and I want a story that resonates, and I don't find either of them in either of these two movies.
No. It's kind of vapid.
Yeah, vapid is a great way to put it. That is an exceptional word for both of these two movies. All right, Jeff. Well, neither of us are going to go see Moana, right? I'm not seeing Moana, although I appreciated the first Moana. I'm not going to be able to see Moana 2 anytime soon. I think next week maybe we'll do a catch-up show and see if we can find some movies out there that we've missed earlier this year, and we'll bring those back for next week's show. What do you think?
All righty.
And of course, you'll blather on about Black Christmas.
No, I won't. I've talked about that movie so much that I might have a surprise though. So
okay,
you'll have to see. I'm hoping to have a surprise.
Okay.
So, but I'll know more after this weekend.
All right. Well, sounds good.
Did you watch Blood Rage?
I totally forgot about Blood Rage. I'm sorry.
Oh, it's a Thanksgiving classic.
See, I thought next week's show was the Thanksgiving show because for some reason, because tomorrow is Thanksgiving. I don't know what I was thinking. I'm so sorry. I forgot.
All right. Well, we won't talk about it then. But
we can talk about it next week.
Oh boy, did you miss out?
We'll talk about it next week.
All right. Sounds good.
All right, Jeff. Thanks.
Bye.